Rich Shea here, unboxing Genotype, a Mendelian Genetics Game designed by John Coveyou, Paul Salomon, and Ian Zang, published by Genius Games. This is a sort of science-based game. I like these a lot, especially when they're well done. I've had a chance to play this game before, which is one of the reasons that I acquired it recently, so I thought I would run through it all with you. Now, just because it's a science-based game doesn't mean it's not a strategic game that's a lot of fun, because actually it is. The rule book, which same the cover, glorious color, brown background tone, so not too glossy for a change, okay? So inside we'll see the components. There's a game board with, it uses dice to basically provide a random selection of genes for you to have to choose from. There's coins, money's tight, you have to do stuff, and there are trait markers that you use to mark on your plants. Let's see. Some coins go on the board, the dice get rolled eventually and put in the different boxes for the different expressions of the dominant, mixed, and non-dominant for the 4 different traits that have been selected. Now, Gregor Mendel, who did the actual research, threw away a lot of data, and in the spirit that didn't make sense, and in the spirit of that, the game throws away some stuff that doesn't make sense in terms of a game. There's a round marker. The game is played over 5 rounds, I believe. Okay, an Abacus Market. There's a market with the cost for certain research upgrades that varies as players use it and resets at different times. Okay, and the upgrades expand your capabilities, more plots, the ability to get more dice, and assistants to help you out. And that's the assistant cards. They're assistants who give you special powers, cute pictures, the plants themselves, tools that you can acquire, how many cards are available depends on the number of players. The game plays up to 5, and you can play solo. And the first player marker is a little trowel. Players have their own mats, and they have action markers, which are also little trowels, and research markers that are used to mark off bonus spots on the board as they do certain kinds of research. So when you play the game, you're research scientists, you're going to gather pea plants, you're going to validate their traits, okay, and on each turn, each round, there's going to be a working phase, plant breeding, and research upgrade. So phase 1, the working phase, is where is the action selection part, where people place their action markers on the limited number of spaces. That's how those games work. Okay. Then during the plant breeding phase, people will have ways to take various dice, and the dice are then used, depending on where they are, to validate certain items on the plants they have. Okay, so depending on this chart, dice of value 1, 2, 3, or 4 represent, in this case, the ones would represent homozygous for dominant, and 4s would represent homozygous for non-dominant. Okay, and the mixed are the other ones. And you need to get matching dice, this would be a mixed, to put on the G gene for each of for that particular plant. And the genes are R, F, G, and T, which represent real things on real pea plants, but I don't remember which ones yet. And then at the end, the research upgrade phase, you can spend the coins that you've managed to get your hands on to get upgrades. Then you total up your pea plant research and unspent coins, and whoever has the most points win. So you have, this is the player board. It has spaces to hold dice. Cards can go on it, and you can extend your ability to have cards a little bit. There are some actions that you can use your marker for that are on your own card that other people can't have. On other ones, there's you're competing for them. Okay. So, and it's an action you get a card, which is a plant or tool. You can harvest a pea plant, so when you've covered all the traits, you can then harvest it That way it will score the points at the end of the game, okay, and clear the spot for you to start another plant. And sowing is when you take cards out of your hand and put them out so that you can start putting markers on them, okay. You have 3 dice slots, I believe, available, but you can use your tool to temporarily get more dice, up to 5, but that means that you're not taking more actions. So that can be a little tricky. You can take an action to change the settings of the parent genes. So, for instance, in this example, you instead of a mixed, one dominant, one non-dominant, both of these are going to be non-dominant, which changes the proportion and setting of the dice for that round, okay? Also, when you do that, if you do it first, you might get a coin. Then there's a selection to pick first, pick second, otherwise it goes in turn order, or turn order after that, okay? Picking among the dice, because you go around selecting dice that way. Okay. You can set a research goal, which is, I don't think I'll explain that now. Okay, there's a treasury, the university, which is where you can select to buy things. And the action spaces can be different. Okay, the tools that are available, get some plants, get one validation without having to go over here and pick a die, pay a coin, set one of the research goals, play a flower pot next to your player mat, and put a card in it. Craft knife is, get to take 2 dice, one at the first time you take dice. Rake, when you play that, you can validate a trait based on the color rather than using the die normally. The pollen brush, and it's a little tricky to explain, but when you validate a genotype, you can validate all of the same genotype on all your plants with a single action. So get some more coins when you take the first shift or gene action, and a grant. When purchasing upgrade, you get a discount of 2. The tool cards are 1 use and return them. I think pretty much true. Plant breeding, so then you take dice, and some dice, there's also X symbols. When you get an X symbol, that's mutations. Alright. Select offspring dice. Alright, then there's an order for taking them. The mutations, you get a die and put the X in a dice slot, or mutate another offspring die. Take the X die and any other die of the same color, put them 2 of your dice slots, and validate any trait using them of that color, okay? So the mutating dice allow players to validate traits for which there are no remaining dice, or which there were none. Alright. The research upgrade phase, you can get a new plot, you can get new dice slots, you can get more action markers. That sounds important. You can hire assistants, which generally give you multi-turn capabilities. Purchase a research upgrade. Okay. The assistants are all explained. They do very different things, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different capabilities. I won't go through those. At the end of the round, you reset a bunch of stuff. As people buy certain upgrades, okay, the costs increase for the next player to do that. And then at the end of the round, they partially reset, okay? Things refill the coins, recover the action markers, and the dice. At the end of the game, you get points, different plants. You can see the points are 12, 7, 9, 5, 8, usually based on how difficult they are to do. The phenotype research goals on the game board. If you have matching traits among your completed P plants, you'll get some points for that. You get 1 point per trait marker on a plant that's not complete. Let's look at this one where you have to have 3 things in here. It's worth 8 points if you finish it, but if you have 2 things done, you at least get 2 points. And an unspent coin is worth a point. Although, frankly, there are usually better ways to spend your coins. There's a set of solo rules, which are fairly long, and changes and things for the solo rules. On the back, there's a summary of the rules, which is helpful. There's also a booklet on the science behind it, which does explain a little bit about the science, Mendel, how it relates to the game, inheritance, how it relates to the game, genotype and phenotype, that's the genetics versus the actual physical expression, how it relates to the game, Mendelian patterns. I think the ones they picked for the game are seed shape, round or wrinkled, flower color, purple, white, pod color, green or yellow, plant height, tall or short. These are types that they sort simply. They seem to be related to a single gene, so it was easy to statistically study what was going on. A lot of traits in real life are based on more than one gene, and Mendel wouldn't have had a hope of finding the relationships without first understanding these simple relationships. The Punnett square is this thing that explains the probabilities. It's a fairly simple way to understand how the probabilities are 25% dominant, 25% non-dominant, and 50% mixed. And once you see that, test crosses, how that worked, and some of the science behind the game. It's actually an interesting read. I might care about this more than some other people, having trained as a biologist, although I end up getting caught in the computer world. So the cardboard parts it's actually quite heavy. Round marker, trait change markers, coins. Each player's plot. This is the action for gardening. These are temporary dice slots you can have. These are regular dice slots and the 2 plots available at the start of the game for each player. I don't think the back... Oh, the back is... You can turn it over and do the scoring on the back here. First player marker. Oops, let's turn it over. Extra plots you can acquire and put next to your player board to expand that. Extra dice slots you might acquire. And the trait markers for marking your progress in validating your plant. Here's the the back of the player board. Well, I hadn't seen that before. There's a picture of the abbey where the research was done. It's quite nice. And on the front, you can see the dice will go in the different slots here. The research bonus things that are available can go here. You select to do that there. It shows the cost to do a thing, 2 coins, 3 coins. Second shift to have early choices. First shift to have early choices. The coins go here. The Punnett squares are here and can be modified. You saw the tags to change them to be not like that for a round. Money, getting more moves, more player. No, this is the treasury to get money. There's 2 slots to get money in a 4-player game, 4 or 5-player game. That's just get a grant, go to the university, the research upgrades. You can see the starting abacus values are here, and then they can go up or down a little bit depending. The nursery to get plants, there'll be some available for selection. Might depend on the number of players or not. And then a stack. Then the tool shed, the tool cards go here. The board layout's quite simple. I think it's like a nice looking board. It doesn't have to be functional, but it is. The dice for the 4 traits. Each die has a 1, 2, 3, and a 4 side, and 2 of the X's. Which in the game, the first time an X comes up, it gets re-rolled. So it has to come up 2 times in a row in order to stay an X during the die rolling phase. some extra baggies, and the wooden bits, which are mostly, I think you can see them here, trowels, made tall enough so they shouldn't fall over too often, and markers for, I think points mostly, yes. Oh, yeah, yeah. I think it's just for point markers. I should check. Let me check quickly. Oh, it's hard to say. Oh, there we go. Okay, starting coins, pun squares, solo play, player mats. Oh, the phenotype research markers. Yes, you mark the phenotype research on the board with the round markers in the player colors. The components are nicely done. The cards for the game are small cards. I should get a cutter. So their cards, solo cards. These are your assistants, Sister Elizabeth. They showed that they're used once around. So the we shall not say tap mechanism. That's Sister Mary, where you place one and then all the same ones also get marked. Sister Maria. Well, there's a bunch of them. Then there are, I think, yeah, these are solo cards. These are for the clockwork mechanism. For the solo cards, there we go. Let's put these down. And oops. So a plant card, number of points it's worth. The traits that need to be validated. Now, the reason that they're like this is that the R, F, G, and T have specific positions on the card. So this requires two things to be validated, mixed for that type and mixed for that type, as opposed to, let's go to a card that's a little more value. That's 5. This is 6 because it's a little more difficult to get the homozygous for the non-dominant as opposed to the heterozygous for anything. Okay, it's just less likely to occur. And here we have homozygous for dominant FF. So the cards are all different, and they go from 5, 7, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. There's actually only a couple of 13-point cards. The 13-point cards are homozygous for everything. Okay. Then there's the tools, pollen brushes, a rake, a watering funnel, graph knife, flower pot, and a seed bag. So some of these things, like the seed bag, is most of these are one-time things. Yes, they are. Dissertation, hand lens, pocket watch, grant. Okay. So those are the cards. They're small, but they're quite clear. They don't need to be any bigger than that. I really like the artwork in this game a lot. It's very nice set up on the table, looks great. It's also a fun strategic game. There's a little bit of randomness with the way the cards come out, but it's not killer that way. It's a worker placement game, straight up, with some cards, and I like it a lot, and the science behind it is surprisingly solid, though it's not going to make you a biologist, but it's also not going to give you any bad ideas. So I enjoyed the selections they made, the things that they did with it, and I enjoyed playing it. I hope you get a chance to try it sometime soon if it sounds like the kind of game you'd like. Thanks for watching, and watch for more. In fact, I think I have another thing from Genius Games coming up quite soon. Bye for now.